Hello, Back to Basics is Dana, Ms. Dangerous, and I'm your Monday vlogger. I'll tell you a secret. I'm taping this really early because this is scheduled to air November 17th, I believe. And my husband and I will be in Hawaii celebrating our 20-year anniversary. Yay, I'm excited. But our topic this week is holiday strategies. And in fact, I think I'm going to try to employ some of these strategies, some but not all, on our trip. So I actually made a list. I don't typically take notes, but I made a list because there's a lot of a lot of different strategies that you can use for the holidays. And I think you have to find what works for you. So these are strategies that I have used in the past really well. I think they worked for me really well. And especially when I was in the losing phase. So like my first Christmas, my first holiday season, I had my surgery in June. 6 months in, it's holiday time. And I was very much in the losing phase and didn't want to screw it up, and wanted to really, continue my progress. I'd lost a good amount of weight, but I was actually, this was interesting. I was at the point where I was just about to break into Wonderland. And so I had said, I really want to be in Wonderland before New Year's. And, it was real important to me that I have a good holiday season and think this through to not derail myself. Because, holidays are rough and they can derail you for a lot of reasons, not just eating, but, stress in general. So I really successfully practiced a few of these strategies, and then I think I did all of these the first year, and then most of them last year, and I'll probably do them this year because I'm kind of at this point where bad habits are beginning to creep in. So, anyway, so I'll get to it. Sorry. So, number one, so treat it like a holiday, not a holiday season. Okay, yes, we've heard this before. But on the actual holiday, on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, there's really only 4 holidays in there, okay, if you count New Year's Day and New Year's Eve. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, there's really 3 or 4 holidays. Just plan on having some of your favorite things. Don't deprive yourself, but just don't stretch it for days and days. If you are practicing good eating habits and exercise habits all week long, and you have one day where you have 2 desserts, or whatever your favorite holiday thing is, it's not really going to derail you. And so in not having those things, you can feel real deprived. So it's not about deprivation. The problem is, for many of us, and I'll be guilty of this, we have turned things into holiday seasons, so it becomes days and days and days of decadent, overeating, indulgent in stuff that isn't always the best for us. So that's tip number 1. Just really think about it. And, if you have some other big events, I think plan for those events. So no, that goes into tip number 2. Plan for each event. Yes, in the days themselves, but all the other events that go in. You need to advance plan. So if you know that there's a big party on Saturday night, then think in advance about what you're going to do. So, what do you want to drink? If your events entail alcoholic beverages or even not alcoholic beverages, but holiday punches or high calorie kinds of drinks, think about what you want to drink. So take your own drinks if needed. And here's a funny thing that I did. My first holiday season, again, which was 6 months after my surgery, I went to a party at a girlfriend's house, And she does a wonderful party, like beautiful gourmet food, and we have alcoholic beverages and stuff. I made up in some water bottles some kind of Crystal Light. I don't remember. It was like some like that Crystal Light function or something, but it was dark colored. It looked like a dark red wine, really. And I poured it at the party. I had it off to the side, kind of put away, but I poured it into a wine glass, and I walked around sipping that, beverage that was my own. It looked like wine. People never asked me, "What are you drinking?" Because everybody else was drinking wine. I'm sure they assumed it was wine. Because it was in a pretty crystal glass, I, didn't really feel deprived, and I fit right in. So you can do that with various other kinds of drinks. Take your own and disguise it. People don't ask you, well, not everybody asks you. Some people will ask you, and you just say, "Oh, I'm having my own little sparkler or something." It doesn't matter. Or don't drink. You don't have to do that. Think about what kind of food they're having. I always typically bring something. If I am not afraid that there's not going to be anything that I can eat, then I will bring something that I know that I can eat. If you're going to some commercial place, you can typically pre-order food and, say you need some special dietary accommodation. But most of the kinds of places I go to are informal, family, friends, etc., buffets, and I just take some. I know I can eat that if nothing else. Think in advance. This is part of the planning to me. Okay, I always go to Kelly's house. I know she does the lavish spread. She puts it in her dining room. Usually I hang out in the dining room and talk. I'm not going to hang out in the dining room. I'm going to get my food. I'm going to go out to the living room or the patio or this, and that is going to be my station. I think about where am I going to position my body to be as far away from the food as possible. And that has been a real change for me. But that keeps me from grazing. So, kind of think about the situations, what you're going to do. And then also, think about what you can do in advance to kind of compensate. That's part of the planning. So do you take a walk that morning, or do you do some extra exercise the couple of days before? Make those changes in advance, right? Don't count on doing them afterwards. Okay. So tip number 3, think about going somewhere else for the holiday. So if you are the person who's always traditionally hosted the party, I'm sorry, I'm holding my phone and I'm trying to look at this and keep moving it around. But if you're the person who's typically hosted the holiday, maybe you shouldn't. I've noticed that if I go somewhere else, I can have some treats and I eat there and then I leave and I don't take leftovers. That's not a problem. It's when I have loads of food in the house and it's hung here for days that I begin to have problems. So tip number 3 is think about going somewhere else for the holiday. Take yourself out of the environment, okay, or change the environment. Tip number 4, if you do cook yourself, or you're hosting the party yourself, or you cook part of the food, etc., think in advance. Again, this is in advance, about what are the critical have-to-haves versus what are the optional things, and think about what you might be able to do to make more healthy or limit the number of things that you prepare and serve. So we used to have many, many, many dishes, different, like a wide variety of dishes, and then people would have a little of something and then it would be left. But it's like, well, it was just too much food. It was ridiculous. It was too much food. So I literally went to my kids, and our holidays are primarily our grown kids and maybe a couple friends. And I said, well, what's the most important? What are your favorite things? What are your 1 or 2 favorite things? And While not everybody has the same favorites, we were able to kind of combine, and we've kind of tossed a couple of dishes that we just don't have anymore. Or I ask them to, contribute their favorites. Um, so I have also made some modification to things to make it more healthy. So, example, sweet potatoes. I grew up in Texas. We used to have candied yams, sweet potatoes with the marshmallows on top, and cooked in loads of butter and brown sugar and everything. I found a sweet potato casserole. It's still probably not the healthiest thing, but it's much healthier than the other. I cook it with like Splenda brown sugar, and and we love it now. And I just cook that now. And the old one was a tradition that really we just don't care for as much as the new one. So explore. We used to always eat exactly the same thing every holiday, and I've realized that doesn't have to happen. Okay, tip number 5. Try to take the focus away from food for the day, or make it not just about food. Not just about food. So, some of the things that I've done is I've started planning games and activities. I had a friend who was fantastic about this. She always used to do, she always does, and tell me, oh, they do games, and creative games. She searches the web and comes up with creative games and stuff, and her family would play. And, if we're talking about Christmas Eve, or New Year's or whatever, it used to be like we eat and then, you visit, but it seemed like the eating was stretched over. So I've started doing some fun games and stuff, and they're silly. And in some instance, I think the first year my kids were like, oh my God, what is she doing to us? But now it's kind of become, I think, fun for them. So we have a right, left, center game that we play with dice and some dollars, and that's kind of my kids are, in their 20s, early 30, and a few extra bucks always helps. Some of the minute to win it games are silly, just one or two. And, I've planned things, and I've communicated the fact to my kids and friends that I want this to not just be all about food. This is important to me, guys. I need this to be not just about food. And they have really honored and respected that. And I think, feel like we're incorporating some new traditions. So that's tip number 5. Tip number 6. Don't be afraid to say no, or don't be afraid to pare back. So if you're a holiday overboard person, but it makes you crazy and stressed, it's time to evaluate. And actually now, at the beginning or middle of November, it's time to evaluate. And you might even need to make a list. What is really important to you? And what have you just been doing because it's expected of you, but it's not really important? What can go, what can stay, what can be modified? I'll give you a couple examples in my own life. I've cut out some of the non-important things like Christmas cards. Christmas cards just aren't important to me. And so I used to get in a frazzle about, oh my gosh, I haven't addressed the Christmas cards. I didn't do them last year. You know what? I didn't miss not doing them. I don't plan on doing them this year. I have, we had a list of people that I would send to once a year. That was it. We have no other communications with them. It seemed valueless, really. Not important. And the fact that it's just done and gone, great. Took it off my list of things to do. Pare down on some things that are less important. And this can be a lot of things. It could be your decorating. It could be the amount of activities that you go to. It could be gifts. If you give gifts to everybody, but then you find, I have no idea what to give people, it may just be time to have the discussion with people and ask questions about the gift-giving tradition. So, Here are some things that, again, I did. We're in a little bit different place, I guess, because of our children. So I have a 26-year-old daughter and a 31-year-old son. They're both married. You know, budgets are tight for them. We used to give them gifts and they would give us gifts. And, you know, as budgets got tight, I realized, A, it's a stress. I can always find something to give them, but it's the stress on the on of doing it, and B, it is they're feeling like they need to do something back, and so we just asked them a couple of years ago, guys, we know budgets are tight everywhere. What if we just, instead of gifting to everybody, what if we just did a gift exchange where we draw names and we only have to, you know, you really only buying one gift, and what do you think about that? And they were all over it because for them it was the stress of the financials, you know, plus what to buy. So for the grandbabies, we have two now. Everybody buys them little gifts. That's easy. But amongst us grown-ups, we don't do individual person by person gifts anymore. And I think, you know, if you have family members or children that are, you know, 20 and above, I would really, you know, if that stresses you out, get rid of it. Get rid of all those gifts to people that, you know, you're not really sure what to buy them anyway. You just feel like it's expected. It feels hard to buck the tradition in a way, but golly gee. I think that it takes a lot of stress off your mental and your pocketbook. And that stress sometimes is what causes us then to begin to have difficulty with eating and other kind of coping behaviors. So I just realized I'm at 16, almost 17 minutes, and luckily I'm done with my written tips, but I rambled on and off, so I don't even know if this is going to upload. I hope that you spend some time pre-thinking about what your holiday strategies are, and I'm sure folks have great ones that they'll be sharing with us this week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.